If you want to start a podcast or maybe revamp your current one, nailing down your format and topic or niche is a great place to start. And even though there's lots of podcasts out there already, there's still room for more. And your show can set itself apart with a unique format or playing to your expertise and passion. So in this video, we're going to share 15 different format ideas that will work for any podcast or genre, plus 25 topic ideas so you can find the right niche for your podcast. Let's hit formats first. And the first is a roundtable type discussion. The Reason Roundtable is a great example, and there are many shows that might have multiple hosts so the roundtable is consistent, or some of those roundtable members may switch out. Another example is the Distractible podcast. My son actually enjoys this one. It's a little different than a straight-laced roundtable format. It's more fun, they play games, but the hosts are consistent and all three of them contribute to every episode. Number 2 could be social commentary. An example is the Fifth Column, and yes, I'm going to put links to all of these podcasts down in the video description. This could also be consistent hosts or co-hosts, and my tech podcast, Primary Technology, is like this. It's me and my co-host every week commenting on the technology side of culture, but you could have one that talks about pop culture, education, philosophy, health, business, and a ton more. Number 3 are host-led interviews. This is another popular format. You might see Diary of a CEO, and even celebrities are getting into this format, like Amy Poehler's new show, Good Hang. One of the challenges of doing an interview show is actually booking guests regularly, but you can break up your podcast into seasons, do 10 episodes, 10 interviews, take a break and call it season 1, season 2, and that can give you a little more time to book big guests for your future episodes. Number 4 are how-to podcasts. Slate has one literally called How To, but I think this is actually an underserved genre. So if you want to explain how to do things, again, whether it's business and finance, health and wellness, or how to build a creator business, this kind of instructional type podcast can also be evergreen, meaning your older episodes could be just as valuable as your newer one, depending on your topic. Number 5, very long form, unedited type interviews. Some of the biggest shows right now are like that. This is Lex Fridman's podcast, and you can see some of his episode times are almost up to 5 hours long. Now, you really need to provide value for that whole time or have guests that are very interesting to your audience, but really long interviews is a successful genre. Next, deep dives into a single topic. This could be obscure history or current events, but Freakonomics Radio is a great example, and this could appeal to a wide audience. And you can also do a lot of post-production with shows like this, whether it's sound bites, news clips, and you can also cover a wide range of topics because the show is about a deep dive on a single topic, but every episode could be something different. Number 7, dynamic storytelling from a single narrator. This is great if you want to do a solo show and tell stories that could be nonfiction or fiction. You can also put some post-production like background music and sound effects, and that single host narrator can go a long way. Number 8, improvised comedy. Alchemy This is a great example, and a lot of shows with multiple hosts. They might not be comedy specific, but like My Brother and Me, that's almost like an improv comedy show. And when it comes to popular genres in podcasting, true crime and comedy are some of the most popular. Single host commentary is another genre and one that's really popular. So whether it's commenting on current events, politics, social topics, or other, just having one person commenting on a regular basis can go a long way. And one benefit here is you as the single host commentator, people are going to follow the show because they want to hear what you have to say. And that probably means they want to hear what you have to say about any topic. So you also have some variety in what you can cover. The number 1 podcast most weeks is actually this next genre, which is daily updates. The New York Times The Daily has been going for a long time, publishes every day with the top news headlines, and you could do this for your specific genre or niche. So if you really love movies or live theater, you can do daily updates about the latest news in that. World events, investing, pop culture, those can be daily news bites, and you can differentiate by length of podcast, maybe just by doing a 5 to 10 minute episode as opposed to a 45 or hour long one. Next, people love top 5 or top 10 lists, and that goes for pretty much any category or topic, whether it's foods, movies, shows, or whatever it is you're passionate about. This can go a lot of different directions. Whatever your passion and expertise lies, you could do a top 10 list. This could also be a single host commentary, you and a co-host, or you can even do interview and special guests. So a lot of variety here. Next, you can do a Q&A show, and this is great because the content of the show is basically your audience asking questions. So it's actually less brainstorming and trying to find topics as opposed to just answering your audience questions. Buzzsprout has a Q&A podcast. One of my favorite podcasts that I just started following is Dear Hank and John, and it's basically a question show. They answer listener emails, they're funny, I like their chemistry. This is a great genre if you can make it work for your niche. Scripted fiction is another big genre. Welcome to Night Vale, super popular show, and there's an entire network from Q Code Media, which does fiction podcasts. This also lends itself to higher production like voice actors, background music, sound effects, and more. And if you write your own short stories or maybe have friends and family that are authors and want to get their stories out there to a wider audience, this might be a great genre to pursue. Also, scripted nonfiction or documentary-style podcasts. This American Life is a prime example. It's been around for a long time, but you can also take this different directions like historical events, current events, deep dives into something hyper-local, which is a great way to differentiate your show from other podcasts, being that hyper-local about a region, and it can still find a wider audience when you tell compelling stories. And finally, number 15, repurposing content is super popular. This could be churches repurposing their sermon as a podcast, terrestrial radio like AM, FM, making that into a podcast, or even repurposing live streams. So those were 15 different podcast formats, and now let's go through 25 different podcast ideas. Like I said before, I think the Fix-It DIY format for a podcast is underutilized. Fix-It 101 is an example of that kind of DIY, but this kind of content can be evergreen, meaning it's applicable for years to come, and those episodes might show up in things like web searches or even LLM searches. If people ask Perplexity or ChatGPT about a topic, your podcast episode may be referenced as a source. Next are product reviews as a podcast. This is one hands-on tech from the Twit network, but this could be a wide range of topics. It could be home theater, maybe home goods and furniture. And that could also help with that web search or LLM results because you're talking about specific topics and reviewing them. And this could also be individual or with a co-host. 3 is an advice type podcast. This goes back to that Q&A type show, but also Judge John Hodgman. This is a fun show. It's been going on for years, and it puts a little spin on the advice type podcast. Namely, he acts like a judge, Judge John Hodgman, and actually says one party is more correct over the other in whatever they're arguing about. You can differentiate if you want to choose this kind of topic by your style, format, or something like this, being a fake judge. Number 4, podcasts about podcasting. The Buzzcast is a prime example. We'll put a link to that in the description as well so you can listen, but you can talk about gear, microphones, setup, how other podcasters have grown their audience, and the latest trends and news, maybe tools that podcasters can take advantage of to grow their show. Next, guests sharing their favorite things. This would be a great interview-style show. This could be across genres, someone's favorite piece of tech, their favorite album, their favorite movie. And it could be a great way to get to know that guest on a deeper level and share some things that maybe their followers haven't heard before. There's also great ways to put slight spins on this genre. I liked this show. It was called Unjustly Maligned. It's actually no longer being produced, but he would have guests come on the show and defend something that most people or culture has said is bad or didn't like. So that's a great way to differentiate, putting a twist on a show like that sets you out from the crowd. Number 6, hyper-local news and events. The Florida Roundup is a great example of that, but if you focus on your town, your niche, or your city, you could be one of the few podcasts that talk about that. This could be a daily show sharing the top events and what's going on in the city that day, or a weekly show, what's going on the weekend, concerts and events in the city. And you can also focus on a specific topic like the best new restaurants, best cafes, current deals going on right now, things like that. Short stories is another great genre. LeVar Burton reads is a good example, but you can also appeal to something like younger audiences or even maybe families with kids. If you're reading stories that appeal to those younger audiences, that's also an untapped genre, doing podcasts specifically for families to listen to in the car or in the evenings at bedtime. Next, storm chasing. This could be if you're actually doing it in the field and chasing tornadoes and other storms, or covering storm events and hurricanes, almost like a news style. Lots of different directions you can go here. Number 9, alternative living. This is a really popular genre, especially on social media, and you can make it a podcast. Maybe it's talking about van life, homesteading, RV life as a family. And because the central topic is actually the lifestyle, how you're living, this can also include things like how-tos. How can you do a van life successfully? What are the perils of doing RV living? So it can be both lifestyle, commentary, and humor, as well as a little tutorial. Movie and TV show recommendations are also popular. The Filmcast is an example. I've done my own movies on the side podcast reviewing movies. This is a pretty saturated genre, so you might want to figure out how you can differentiate and do a different kind of show than a lot of the ones that are out there. There could be a daily show announcing the new shows and movies that are available on streaming platforms. I'm not sure of a podcast that exists doing that yet. Or maybe it's the chemistry between you and a co-host talking about these things that are going to attract listeners to your podcast. Obscure history and explainers. 7-Minute Explainers is one example. A show I actually listen to is called Omnibus, where they take an obscure topic or an event in history and go in depth every episode. Love these kinds of shows. You can have an entire podcast about retirement. Retirement Answer Man is a great one. If you have experience as a CPA, business, or investing, you can talk about those topics as well as things like travel and events, things to do with your grandkids. And this kind of topic is also evergreen. So the suggestions you make, even people who are retiring 10 years from now, they can still find your show and find value in it. Home Improvement's a big one. Fix-It Home Improvement's a great show. This can also lean more tutorial or more entertainment. You can also do an interview style show of people recently remodeling their house. And you can inject a lot of humor into these kinds of stories as well. Next, true crime, but medical. True crime is a huge genre. Shows like Morbid are some of the top shows in all of podcasting. but you can have an angle like Emergency Medical Minute. I remember watching as a teenager the show Trauma, Life in the ER. People are very interested in medical stories like that, and you can also interview people that are like paramedics, nurses, those who work in the ER, and you can probably get some wild stories. All right, let's pick up the pace. You could do a day in the life kind of journals type podcast. This can be solo or you and a co-host sharing your daily stories. Food and cooking. This could be recommendation. This could also be deep dives about different restaurants, chefs, people who have built businesses from the ground up around restaurant and food. Food trucks would be another big one. You could also do a cooking how-to podcast where you share recipes. Your show notes could be a great resource for those listening where you link PDFs or websites with those recipes. Behind the scenes is another great topic. Screenwriters Rant Room as an example. But if you, a co-host, or your guests have those behind-the-scenes stories that people don't normally hear about in whatever industry, those are super interesting. Music podcasts can go many different directions. This is musical splaining. Song Exploder is another great example. And even 20,000 Hertz, which I love their episode with Hans Zimmer. And with all the different genres of music, you can really differentiate. Investing in finance, this could be both evergreen and timely content, talking about the economy and the stock market. Daily life hacks, those are huge. This could be a short show, 5 to 10 minutes, or you can do longer ones where you interview people with lots of life hacks. Those improv style comedy shows, like I mentioned before, Alchemy This is an example, My Brother and Me. Animals and pets, which actually seems like an underserved genre as I was searching for it. And some of them are also appealing to kids and family, which kids would love to hear about different pets, stories. This might be a great genre to try to break into. Pop culture is always big, talking about current events, movies, Hollywood, TV shows. And technology is another huge genre. I do my own weekly tech podcast, and we found success even launching our podcast just a couple years ago. So those were 15 formats and 25 podcast ideas, but we have even more on the Buzzsprout website. This will be the top link in the video description. This is 75 podcast ideas and formats to help inspire you whether you're starting a show or you want to pivot your current one. If you have any questions about formats and topics, let us know down in the comments. And if you need help naming your show, Buzzsprout actually has a podcast name generator that you can use for free. It'll tell you what show names are already in use and which are unique. And we did a whole video about it. You can watch it right here. And we'll put another video on how to start your podcast, whether you need to get into gear, editing, or learn the process. You can watch that video right here. Thank you for watching and keep podcasting.